Hi Libra, great to see you. I've just been doing some spiritual work and it has really got me in the mood. The mood to do your Libra October reading, where I shall be using these tarot cards, but as you know, I also make use of astrology, the zodiac, numerology, and general mystic learnings and esoteric knowledge. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. I do appreciate it. Hello again to all of you. I know from your comments that you love your readings, Libra, so I appreciate that feedback. I hope you're going to love this month's reading. Hi to everybody from the United States and Canada that stop by and say hello and comment. United Kingdom, France, Germany, Iceland, Brazil, Mexico, India. Good to see everybody from India, and the Philippines, Australia, New Zealand. Great to see you. And the Republic of Ireland. So let's have a look to see what there is in store for you this month, shall we? I'm going to take the 5 cards as is my usual practice because it's all we need. And it gives us a very in-depth reading as to what's in store for you. So let's see what is in store for you, shall we? Let's get those cards drawn now and then get into the reading. So what is there? The Death card, 8 of Cups, that's this one here. The King of Cups, the 5 of Wands for you, and finally, the World, Major Arcana, number 21. Outstanding. Look, I'll bring a light down, so a lamp, so you can get a good close look at these cards lit up while you sit next to me and while I do the reading for you. All right, Libra, let's have a look at these cards of yours, which, gee, they look great. Let's have a look. I'm drawn to this one first for some reason. It's obviously got a message for you. Let me get closer and I'll just reach behind and get my pen because I can use it to point out some of the aspects of this card. The 8 of Cups. Well, I love the number 8 because it is about power. It is about decision, more importantly. And I think the question here for decision is one that relates to you. Now, here we have 8 cups. What do we have in the cups themselves? Well, in this first one we have what looks like a youth confessing sins to a friar or to a priest. Remember, this is a Renaissance deck, and Catholicism was very much the game in town in Italy. Here is a puppet show being played out. This one here looks like, yes, it looks like young girls strewing flowers over a street in a festival. This card here is that of an eagle holding a frog. This is a veiled figure. This one here is a woman being frightened by a spider. This one here looks like somebody in prison, very remorseful, very unhappy at their circumstances, as one would expect. And this one here is, I can't quite make it out. It's a woman dancing by the look of it. Now let's have a look at this 8 of Cups and what does it mean for you? I'll just pull out there is of course this pink figure sitting in the middle here, which is surveying all of these cups around it. What is important, I think, here is the astrology. I call this card the Lord of Abandoned Success. That is where you're not really pushing forward, I think. I am getting the planet of Saturn ruling the first decan of Pisces, that 19th of February to the 29th of February. Now, Saturn, as you may well know, is about structure, organization, discipline, heavy energy, and responsibility, whereas Pisces is about intuition, spirituality, fantasy, and emotion. And I think that what we have is that Saturn is deadening completely the water of Pisces. Saturn dominates and suffocates the joy of Pisces. And also there is the presence of Mercury for me. I have a mystical association of the planet Mercury with the number 8. So we have Mercury present in the card. And the overall influences represent dark Saturn with no apparent growth, and yet this is about to start up again and move on in quite a dramatic fashion. Now, I have Mercury mystically associated with the planet, with the number 8. Now, in ordinary astrology, Mercury is also in detriment in Pisces. Pisces is the sign of the card, so we have conflict here as well, I think. Now, what I'm really getting, the energy that's really coming up to me for you is that there is the feeling, I think, of being overly tired, almost drained. This is probably drained from something that has been happening recently, I think. Almost exhausted. There is a tendency, I think, for you to naturally overgive or randomly overextend yourself. And this is a warning card, I think, for you not to extend yourself to the point of exhaustion. There may be, and I see Pisces in here, and there may well need to be the need to set limits with a Pisces person. This points this energy to me to a sort of stagnation that you're feeling in your life with, is this possible with you? Almost no interest in friends or personal projects. It's as if you are denying yourself pleasure as a sort of a penance, if you like. I'm reminded of this figure here in this cup of this penitent youth confessing to a friar. Well, it's almost as if you are putting yourself through some self-imposed penance or punishment. And you shouldn't do that, you know. There's nothing worthwhile doing that. Certainly not in this month, anyway. From what I see around here, it's as if you lack the effort and the get up and go, which may be a reaction to feeling empty in your life, or possibly just the feeling, even momentarily, that there isn't anything that fulfills you. Do you know, I very much have the presence coming in here of a center of consciousness, of a being of light, which one might call an angel, a messenger from the divinity. Angel, of course, is derived from the Greek word angelos, which means messenger. And throughout the scriptures, angels were messengers. And the name of this messenger is Rahael. That is one of the 72 names of God, which are, I won't go into how they're derived, but they come from chapter 14, verses 19 to 21 of the book of Exodus in the Old Testament, or the Hebrew Bible, that bit which is to do with the parting of the Red Sea. And that name of Rahael corresponds to the word Lord in another book of the Old Testament, or Hebrew Bible, called the Book of Psalms. And I'm pretty sure it's Psalm 16, verse 5, which says, The Lord is my allotted share and portion. You control my fate. Now, meditating on that verse, 16:5 of Psalms, and on that angel's name, with every step you take, and with each moment that passes, you will feel comfort, confidence, and a stronger sense of direction. So that might be something which is coming up for you at that month, but you ought to know that you have friends in high places. Now, I think allied to that, and I'm being drawn to this card here, which is card number 13. Let's have a look at it in some more detail. Card number 13. Well, here we have the figure of death, the skeleton of death, and the pose that the skeleton has adopted is really reminiscent of the Hindu god Shiva, how Shiva is often depicted, Shiva forming the third part of the Trinity in Hindu religion and philosophy. Shiva is married to the mother goddess of Parvati. Now, what is important here is that if you look at the scythe that the skeleton is holding, it is really the remains of what looks to me to be a human spine. But getting down beneath that figure, things become more important and more relevant, I think, to you. Shiva, of course, is the god of change. That is destruction, breaking down, which then brings things anew. And I'm very much getting that feeling here from that spiritual energy. Here is a raven flying across the scene, which is symbolic of decomposition. But now these three heads, that of a woman, a child, and a man. Now this man, I'm assuming, is actually the artist who painted the deck, because there is a paint palette beside him, and so he's probably saying, look, I'm also subject to death. But what is important here is that the ground is blue, and I very much have the impression of growth, and these hands are poking out, and you notice these green shoots that are coming through. This means that although there has been destruction, there is new growth. So there may well have been something that you have gone through or going to go through that will be broken down, but it's going to build up again. Now, what I have here really is astrologically, and I'll just pull it out again so we can see it in the context of the other cards, is that I see that we have Scorpio ruled by Mars, is what I see. And for me, esoterically, the planets, the energy of the planets have different forms, but in this form, Mars is in its lowest form, where it is Mars, the planet of fiery energy, in its impersonal, brutal, pushing forward form, which is necessary to provide the impulse to change, I think. What is also important is that Scorpio is a card that changes. Scorpio is a sign that changes. It begins as a scorpion, it then changes to a snake, and then it is exalted in the form of an eagle. And actually, we'll see that when we get around to this card here. But what that means is that I think that things are now on the look up for you. Things are on the look up. I call this card the child of the great transformers, the Lord of the gate of death. And I think that what we see here for you is that it's about facing fears and breaking limits. You need to grow to learn your life lessons. Things need to come about and change for you to learn your life's lessons. Something in your life is dying, dissolving, or disintegrating, or it has, or it's an event which has occurred, which probably is now past, but which you're giving some time to thinking about. Now, this this thing that's changing or dissolving in you may well be a structure that you have created yourself, a pattern, a habit, or even a way of thinking about yourself and the world. This is necessary for new beginnings and transformation in your life. I think this is a period of transformation and change, and you facing up to things, and facing your darkest fears. But remember one thing, that it's always darkest just before the dawn. So have no fear. In order to grow and to abandon the old, death really is your protection against stagnation, which is what was coming up in this card here. So there are things which you need to work through, I think, and are working through. I think what it is that you are being forced to leave behind what you have outgrown. I think it could also signify a time of major transformation where you cut through to the core of yourself, jettisoning the old and giving sunlight so that the new can grow. Now, sometimes this can represent itself as a sort of a crisis period, or a mini crisis. But fear of the future for you really must be replaced with the comfort of confidence. And it certainly is a time for you to cut through those things which are no longer serving you in your life. Now let's have a look here. What am I getting next? I think we might have a look at this character that's in the middle here, the King of Cups. Now, the first thing that I'll say about the King of Cups is that esoterically, kings are represented by fire, and cups, of course, are represented by water. So we have the fiery part of water, and as you well know, fire and water don't mix. So we can, I think, expect to see some conflict in the nature of the character of this person. And who is the person? Well, it may well be a Pisces. It's a water sign, but I'm very much getting the feeling of Pisces about it. Interestingly, I'm also getting Aquarius as being somebody who could be involved here. I called this card the Lord of Waves and Waters, the King of the Hosts of the Sea. Now let's have a look at some of the imagery, shall we? At the base here, remember this is a Renaissance deck, the base here we have different goes or different attempts at the Mona Lisa that Leonardo da Vinci no doubt painted before he came up with his masterpiece. In the background here we have the dome of the Cathedral of St. Peter's, which is in the Vatican City, just, kind of within the boundaries of Rome. And that papal theme has continued because here we have the papal throne, and this cup which he's holding is really what I would say is representative of the papal hat, the papal tiara that is worn. He has pink gloves, he has hearts on his garters, his tunic is that of red and yellow, which is power and achievement. In his right hand, he's got that cup. In his left hand, he's holding the hand of what I would say is an angel, but depicted as an altar boy who is holding a Chinese sunshade over the head of the Pope, who is depicted as, and if I'm not mistaken, the great Pope of the Renaissance time in Italy was Leo X, so I'd say that's Pope Leo X. Now this angel has like an altar boy frock on it, and continuing the theme of cups, is decorated with seashells. So what can we say about it? Well, let's pull it out again so we can see it in the context of these other cards, shall we? All right. Now, here is a man, I think, with what I would say are commitment issues. And this might be someone who's involved in your life at the moment or whom you're coming across during this period. Somebody who is really amiable, I think, but quite passive. Someone who's really attracted to excitement, and someone who can have really an unsustainable enthusiasm about a project or a person. Somebody who is sensitive but shallow is what I'd say. He's mostly passive, I think, with the qualities of a Venus or a very weak Jupiter. He's amiable in a passive way. He is on the whole so superficial that it's hard to reach his depth. His name is written in water, I would say. He tends to mismanage his affairs, and without luck, his career can be an unbroken record of failure. Often his mental civil wars, and that's because of this conflict within him of the earth, of the water and fire. Those mental civil wars can often lead to substance abuse, all right, or even mental illness sometimes. So very much the abuse of stimulants and narcotics may precipitate, problems with his mental equilibrium, is what I would say. One thing I'll say about this person is this, and the gay and lesbian community can make the necessary adjustment, please. He is a person who loves the opposite sex, and the opposite sex loves him. He can be very charming, but he's not very deep. He is someone who is ruled by emotion, not very practical, and will really rather try to flatter a partner than pick up their share of the expenses, I think. Often a person that is intensely insecure, needing constant reassurances. Funnily enough, he can be good fun to be around, but he's not in your life for very long, is the feeling that I'm getting. He is someone with whom it can be great at sex, really good fun in the bedroom. Somebody who is, I think, really good at all the superficial things, and kind of an actor, keeping his emotions really hidden. And at worst, I think this is someone who is unfaithful, fickle, shallow, highly emotional, and, well, I've just got to say it, just unreliable, I think. However, he can bring about great inner contentment and great happiness, which radiates out from him to enrich other people. And so I think that what you will have during this period is, notwithstanding this, because I think that there are changes along the way, and this has already shown us that this is coming through, but rather you are going to start to radiate happiness and contentment, and that's going to come out to those around you. Now, this is either going to be emotionally or possibly spiritual, I think. Look, there is the possibility that you may be uncertain about yourself, remembering this is someone who needs constant reassurance. And you may feel that you can't get what you want in love and relationships, and you may have self-doubt, but you can. What this is saying is to overcome these things. This is saying that if these are energies which are coming around you, well, they may well be someone that you know. Then also remember that he may also lack energy and inspiration. Now, this is something that we were talking about here. There's a period that you may well be feeling some lack of energy and inspiration, but this card is really saying to me, and it's interesting that it should come through in relation to both of these, isn't it? Isn't this fascinating the way this works? Well, there are no coincidences. When I do this, it never ceases to astonish me. But this lack of energy or inspiration that you feel, this is really saying to me that this might actually just be a necessary respite from what has happened in the past before you get more active and get more creative. And getting more active and more creative is what's going to be happening. Because here we're coming up now talking about activity. Here we have this Five of Cups. That might well be someone, that King of Cups might be someone in your life, just put your seatbelt on when you're with them. Don't invest a lot of emotional energy into them. As I say, they're great fun to be with, but often they're not in your life for very long. Well, here we have someone who is, this card here, the Five of Wands. Well, the number 5, for me, that is associated with the planet of Mars. Again, Mars has come up in your reading now again. And that 5 is a Mars planet. And before I get onto the astrology, let's have a look at the symbology that's in the card. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys bashing away at each other with clubs. Now, here's the interesting thing. Here's the 6th person. Now, take note of this. Here are all these people fighting with clubs. What's this guy doing? He's sitting back and he's going, wow, this is fantastic. I don't have a club in my hand. In fact, he's just got emerald rings on his fingers. He's well dressed. He's got the emblems of the sun on both shoulders, a gold coin around his neck, and a sack of gold coins in his pocket here. Here is somebody who's stepping back and saying, with all of this strife going on, I am the person who's actually going to come out winning out of all of this. And I think that this is you. I don't mean to say that I'm not painting you as this person, but I think the situation coming through here where you are actually going to be emerging victorious. Now, for me, it's Saturn in the first decan of Leo, the 23rd of July to the 2nd of August, the Lord of Strife, I call this card. Saturn in Leo. Well, Saturn and Leo don't get on because Leo wants to be creative and express itself, while Saturn, as we heard before, is kind of cold and dense and wants to set boundaries and limits. Now, Leo is a fire sign, and here, in the suit of wands, it's in a fire suit. And it's added to the energy of Mars, which I get from this number 5, from the numerology and mysticism, my school of mysticism. So we have Leo, the fire sign. We've got the fire from Mars coming into it. And what happens is that Saturn comes along, and tries to dampen down all of this energy. So the astrological energies are in discord, I would say. So it's discordant. But is that a bad thing? Well, I don't know that it is, and the reason why I'll say that I think it's actually quite a good thing for you is because I think that you might find yourself in the middle of a conflict or a tension or a competition, and you might think it's impacting your ability to move forward with your goals, but competition can be good because it actually makes you better. It makes you force yourself to make sure that things are going well. This is pointing to competition with people, I think, who might have the similar qualities and experiences to you. You may not have had to face the fire of competition before, but now you'll know what it is, and in particular what it requires. And I think what this card is also doing is it's encouraging you to understand the differences of culture and background and opinions, because that makes you more rounded and wise. This competitive activity will be sorted out within a period of 5 weeks, I think. What I also think here is that you should have a look at the book of Psalms. I'm sure it's chapter 100, Psalm 140, verse 2. Rescue me, O Lord, from evil men. Save me from the lawless. Now, meditating on that verse will remove the dark force's presence from your earnings and its destructive influence from your life. The light is now your silent partner, and you will be supported by its protection. Yeah, very interesting card, that. Sometimes it's seen as being a problem card, but for you, I think it's actually a really, really good card. Now, this takes us finally to, and because it's bringing to you that much needed energy to push you along and get you moving again in a victorious way from what might have been a period of kind of feeling a bit down about yourself. Let's have a look here at the world to finalize ourselves. Well, isn't this interesting? Here we have the figure of a young woman who's standing around wreaths, which is entwined by the alchemical snake. And in the four corners here, this is interesting. Now, in an Old Testament book, a Hebrew Bible book called Ezekiel, in chapter 1 of Ezekiel, he talks about the vision coming out of the wind and the storm out in the desert, and of 4 figures which had the bodies of a human, and it had a face which had the human face at the front, that of a lion at the right-hand side, that of an ox at the left-hand side, and that of an eagle in reverse. Check it out, in Ezekiel, and that's in verse 10, Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 10. These actually represent, and that verse also represents, the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. Here we have Leo, Taurus. Now, the human is Aquarius. The fixed air sign of Aquarius is represented by the human, and Scorpio by the eagle. As I told you before, that the eagle transforms scorpion, snake, and into the final form of eagle for its illumination. This is saying that there is a decision that's had something of a major impact on your life, and you are going to make a decision, and the decision is going to, as a result of that, and your decisions are going to be positive. You will have life-changing experiences. There is now time for you to, and this is the time for you to move on after seeing the big picture, and take time out to see the big picture, and this is a natural growth of shedding things and people who no longer serve you. That's the way it is for you this month. Well, there we are. There it is. The month of October for you. I really hope you enjoyed that reading as much as I enjoyed giving it to you. I think it's going to be a fantastic month, and you've got great things in store for you, so well done. All I can say is this, is that you've been absolutely brilliant. You've been fantastic, as you always are, and really the only thing that remains for me to say is this, that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. Until then, bye for now.